back to Clarity Combos for Wedding Pros Podcast. I'm your host, Aislinn, and today we have a very special guest. Becky Hart is back to talk to us about a very pretty hot topic, which is threads. I think this is going to be a really, really fun conversation. Becky, please say hello.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Aislinn, for having me back. I'm so excited to be here.
So last time Becky was on the podcast was a little while ago, but I remember we were talking about networking and talking about connecting with other vendors. So I think it's very cool that our next conversation in that little series would be talking about threads. So I would love, Becky, if you can just kind of share who you are, what you do, what you're currently up to. And I think from there we can kind of dive right in.
Perfect. Yeah, absolutely. My name's Becky Hart. I have a wedding and event planning company here in Oregon called Event Crush that I have had since 2012. So coming up on 13 years this year, which is pretty wild. And we do corporate events, nonprofit, destination weddings, all kinds of fun stuff. And I have a small team. And more recently, I have been getting into the education side of things. So I now have a podcast that I guess it's coming up on a year of having my podcast, Event Crushed. And I also do some coaching with newer wedding planners and wedding planners who are wanting to level up in the industry. So that is what I'm up to these days.
I love that. I think one of the coolest things that I want to mention to my audience is the way that Becky and I met was through threads. Which is wild to think about because sometimes you don't know what the origin story is of how you meet people, but we have a very specific, this is exactly how we met, was on threads. I want to say it was probably 6 or 7 months ago. And I don't even remember exactly what the thread was, but then we just kept commenting on each other's stuff. And then I think either you invited me to your podcast or I invited you to my podcast. We ended up swapping. But I think the thing I kind of want to talk about, at least first, is what is threads and how long has it been around? I don't know if you know the answer to that one.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So Threads launched in July of 2023. So it's coming up on 2 years already, which is crazy because it still feels like a very new app. And so it's wild to think that it's coming up on 2 years. But Threads is a text-based app or platform. So it's very similar to Twitter or X as we know it now. And it's just a really fantastic way to connect. Like you mentioned, that's how we met. It's a great way to connect with others and build community and build relationships, which like you said, that's very fitting that we're talking about this now after our last chat. And so, yeah, it's just a way to grow community and, you can ask questions, you can answer questions. It's just, to me, that's what it is. It's a way to build relationships, grow community, and also to market your business as well.
Yeah. And I think today is going to be really cool to talk about different strategies and also just different things that you've seen on threads, different things I've seen on threads that work and things that don't work. So let's kind of dig into this because I feel like you don't have this is a hard line. This is my process. This is my strategy. But I know there are things that you are doing on threads. So I want to kind of dive into what are the ways that you're using threads right now?
For sure. Yeah. So for me, I am just trying to show up regularly. That's my big thing at the moment. I'm just showing up there and I'm posting 1 to 3 times a day. But then in addition to that, it's not just about what I'm posting, what you're posting, it's about engaging with other people's content. So in addition to doing my posts, I love to just go on and just go through my feed and just engage with other people and have conversations on other people's feeds too, because that's how you grow on threads. That's how you build that community. It's not just posting, but it's interacting with others as well. And something that I've been doing right now that has been really fun, and I've been doing it for a while, but I have a series that I'm doing. And so it's called Dear Wedding Pro. And so every 1 to 2 days, I just share kind of a thought that's directed towards wedding pros. And those posts do really, really well. They get a lot of engagement and they get a lot of people agreeing and just saying yes, or oh, I needed to hear this, or oh, I feel this. And it's such a cool space because it fosters that community and the letting people know that they're not alone. That's what I love about it is it's a space where we can share what we're going through in our businesses or what we're struggling with. And then for other people to say oh yeah, I've been there, or oh yeah, I'm going through the same thing too. And that's so powerful. And I feel it's so different for me from Instagram because with Instagram, obviously I'm using that to market my business to potential clients. Whereas with threads, and you can absolutely do that with threads. I'm personally it's more B2B. So I am using it to connect with other wedding professionals and have those conversations that I think are really important to have in the industry. And so that's why, like, that's one of the reasons I love it so much, is because it's just such a great place to, it feels like a safe space to kind of have those conversations. And so yeah, I'm just showing up regularly. I'm posting, I'm engaging on other people's content, having conversations. And then another thing that I have been doing is taking like threads that are doing really well and then seeing how I can repurpose them to then share them on Instagram or in my newsletter, because threads is a really great place to like test out content. Like you can just throw something up. It can be like 2 sentences, but then if it gets a ton of engagement, you're like, oh, I'm onto something here. Like I just did a post maybe like a week ago, and it like blew up. It got so many likes and comments, and people were just like relating with it. And I was like, wow, like I really think I'm onto something here. So I'm working on a newsletter kind of about that topic and just continuing that conversation, because you can only do so much on threads. But then if you can kind of take it into like a longer form of content, like your newsletter or, you know, however you want to continue that conversation. But that's something else I'm doing, is just kind of like taking that content and reworking it to share in other places too.
I love that. That's definitely like along the lines of like work smarter, not harder, because like
Mm-hmm.
you're making the content. Why would you not use it in multiple places?
Mm-hmm.
I
100%.
would I would love to hear, because I'm sure you've got some great stories around this. I want to hear some of the things that have happened for you because of the way that you use threads, because I
Mm-hmm.
know that like you've made so many cool like connections, things have happened because you're actually on there doing the things that you're doing.
Yeah, I think that is the biggest thing, is just like the connections that I've made and the relationships that I've built. I've found so many of my own podcast guests on threads, and that's been such a fun way to connect with people. And like, you know, like I'll find somebody and I'm like, oh, this person's really cool. And then like I'll find out, oh, they have a podcast, you know, like you. And or maybe they don't have a podcast, but they just have a really unique perspective. And so then I'll have them on. And I think it's a great way to spread brand awareness. It's a great way to um, show that like you are an expert in your field. And it's also, I think it's like the easiest way to do that, because it's just, again, it's just text based. And so you're just sharing your thoughts basically. And it's such an awesome way to be able to share your expertise easily with your audience. And another thing that happened recently is because of threads, because somebody found me on threads and was following me on there and seeing what I was sharing, they asked me to come be on a panel, which was so fun. I can't actually do it because I'm not available on the date, but it was just really cool. They were like, you know, we found you on threads. We love everything you're sharing there, and we'd love you to be a part of this wedding industry panel. And I was like, that's so cool. Like that wouldn't have happened otherwise. But I can share like a specific story of a connection that happened on threads. And then yeah, it's cool. So I'll try to be brief with it. Okay. So basically I connected with a girl named Mimi with Wilder Social. She is a social media manager and a content creator. And I don't know how we originally connected on threads either. Like maybe I was posting that I was looking for guests, and so she had responded, something like that. So we ended up connecting on threads, and then that moved to Instagram. And then I ended up having her on my podcast. And so we had just started that relationship that way. And then she actually, just a side note, she just came back on my podcast as well. And then I know I'm having you back on mine as well. So super fun. You guys were the first two that I'm having back for a second round.
I love it. That makes
Yeah.
me so happy.
Yes. So fast forward a bit, and a few months ago, she tagged me on a thread and it was someone who I had never heard of before. His name was Danison with bow tie and brush, and he does watercolor calligraphy, all this awesome stuff. And he was posting that he was moving to the Pacific Northwest. And so Mimi got on that post and she said, good people need good people. Event Crush is definitely one of those people. And I was like, oh, that's so sweet. So then because of that, you know, I checked out his profile. I was like, who is this guy? I messaged him because I read, you know, that he was moving to my neck of the woods. And I messaged him on Instagram and I was like, hey, I saw that you're moving to the Pacific Northwest. And like, we just started talking about where he was moving to and everything. So it turns out he was going to be just a couple hours north of me. And so from there, I started just following along with his business. And then I saw that he did a guest podcast appearance on another podcast, and so I listened to that and I loved it, and I was like, well, you should come on my podcast. So then he came on mine as a guest, and it was fantastic. And once he just recently moved to his new home, and so I invited him to the networking group that I host here locally. And so it was just earlier this month, or it was last month, I think. He drove down 2 hours to come to my networking event, but we got to see each other in person, and just it was so cool, like being able to hug him and, just take that relationship that was just built on threads initially, and now being able to like see that person in person. It was really cool. And so again, none of that would have happened without threads. So
I love that. And I think this is like a really great like reminder that like your brand can be speaking in rooms that you're never walking into. Like
mm,
your connections are like out there even if you're not like actively watching them or knowing them. So like this person, like Becky never would have met this guy, like had like somebody not connected them on threads. Like that's an incredible, like little, like kind of like connect the dots kind of like experience. And if I was still a wedding photographer, 1,000%, I would be utilizing threads. Like that would be like basically like my playground.
mm-hmm.
So I love the way that you're using it so much because I think a lot of people like when they get on threads, like what I've seen a lot of that I'm just kind of like, why are we doing this? Is like someone will get engaged and they'll post like their engagement photo on threads and then people will comment like if you need a wedding photographer, congratulations. Like guys, like that feels weird. Like that is not connection based marketing. And so to me, I'm just like, what? This is not going to get you very much. I can
Mm-mm.
almost guarantee it. So I
Mm-hmm.
think like this is a conversation I wanted to have with you, Becky. It's like, what are you seeing? What are you seeing that works and what are you seeing that does not work?
Yes, definitely. Okay. So if I can start with a few things that wedding pros should not be doing on threads. The first one would be exactly what you just said. So going on to a couple who just got engaged page or their post, and they're not asking for recommendations for vendors. They're just saying, oh my gosh, we're engaged. And then they're getting blasted with people going, oh my gosh, you guys are so cute. I would love to photograph your wedding. That gives me the ick. And I don't think that that is the vibe. Personally, maybe it works for someone every now and then. I mean, I don't know. I would say instead of that, there are people on threads all the time saying, hey, I'm looking for a wedding photographer. Do you have any recommendations? So like there's your chance. If they're asking for it, yes, go for it. But when it's the unsolicited, just kind of throwing themselves at these engaged couples, that really irks me. So that is one. The other thing is, do not repost someone else's content
It's
as your own.
weird.
It's
It's
so
weird.
weird. I'm like, what is happening? Because do they not think that it's gonna like come back to them? I don't know. Because I see people doing this. I even saw it recently in the wedding industry where like people will take an idea that someone from another industry that they're sharing and they'll like tweak it to be specific to the wedding industry. But it's like you're trying to pass it off as your own thought, your own idea. And I'm like, it's very clear that's not from you. And so I would just be really mindful that what you are sharing and what you're putting out there is your own original thoughts and ideas. And like, if you're going to quote somebody, that's awesome. Like you can quote people all day long. You can reshare things and say, oh, I loved this. Like that's fantastic. It's when you're taking their exact words and passing it off as your own. Like that's problematic. I think we all learned about plagiarism. Like it's a no. So, and then the other one that I think is really important, and I do see this more often than I should, but it's just don't trash talk your couples or other vendors on threads because like they can see it. And I don't know why some wedding pros or people in general just feel really confident that like it's like the secret like thing and like no one else can see it, but like anyone can find it. And then that's going to be real awkward. So I personally would keep it a little bit more professional unless if you're like an anonymous account or something. I don't even know if that's a thing, but like it's connected, for one, it's connected to your business profile. So when you make a Threads account, it is directly connected through Instagram. So anybody can go to your Threads profile and then click the little Instagram icon and then be on your Instagram page. So it's like there is no anonymity. Like people are going to know who you are. And so I would just be careful about what you're saying. And even if you think like, oh, well, I didn't say their names, I think people can figure it out. So just don't do it.
Yeah, there's two things that I wanted to like kind of say here was that like when you are like posting on threads, like if somebody like says like, hey, I'm looking for a wedding photographer in Utah, and you're a wedding photographer in Utah, you don't always have to be the one who actually says, hey, I'm a wedding photographer in Utah, you should hire me. Sometimes you can go in and you can say, oh, here's a list of all of my favorite people. And you tag 5 of your favorite photographers that you're friends with who are your referral partners.
Mhm.
That can really like, that kind of like reciprocity is like a really like great thing to be putting out there. And it also
Mhm.
like, it's so good to be the connector for people.
Mhm.
I was not the wedding photographer for everyone. So sometimes I would rather just like be like, lifting up my friends and being like,
Mhm.
hey, I have 5 amazing wedding photographer friends who would be a really great fit for this. And they're not the ones who are like posting on it, but I can post for them basically. So
Mm.
I think that's a really great way to do it. And then as far as like trash talking, like your couples or like complaining on threads, guys, it's not your diary. Like, go get a pen and paper. Like, go get a pen and paper. If you want to trash talk your couples, do it on pen and paper. Never do it on the internet ever. Like,
Mhm.
A, it's like, why? But B, like, just making sure that, like, your brand is what you want it to be. And
Mhm.
do you really want to have a brand that trash talks? Do you really want to have a brand that attracts the type of clients that are going to be problematic? Probably not. Especially if you're listening to my podcast or Becky's podcast, probably not. So
Mhm.
don't use that space as a place to vent. Even in the comments of other people's, like, if like Becky posted something and then you go into the comments and like you are like venting about something, that can still be found on the internet. Like, I promise, it's there. People can see it.
Mhm. Yeah, 100%. And even on your main threads page, there's a tab that says replies, and anybody could click that tab and go see literally everything you've ever replied to. So people might not realize that, and they might think like, "Oh, my replies are more hidden," but like no, literally anyone could find that.
Yeah, yeah. So if you're not using threads like right now, these are just a couple of like things that if you do start to use it, you might want to keep in mind.
Yeah, just FYI. Yes, but there are ways to use it properly. And I would say if you are wanting to use threads to market to couples, like that is fantastic. And as I've been on threads for the whole time, I mean, I signed up right away when it came out. There weren't a lot of couples at first, but now there are couples everywhere. And so once you start liking people's posts who are sharing their like engagement announcement, you will start seeing them constantly and you will realize, oh, there's a lot of couples on threads. So there is so much opportunity to market your business. And so rather than like soliciting those couples and, just throwing your business page at them, you can just start sharing content that is going to be useful and helpful to engaged couples. Like if that is your purpose for threads, which I think that's a great purpose. If you're wanting to reach more couples, you can share content that is, if you're a planner or any type of wedding pro, really sharing useful information about wedding planning that is going to help them, local information to your area about planning a wedding. And, you mentioned Utah, so, or Oregon. I mean, wherever you are, start putting out that kind of content and those couples will, once they start searching or once they start using threads for wedding planning and they start sharing about their wedding and engagement, that's the kind of thing that they're going to start seeing. Because threads is really, really great about curating your feed with the kind of content that you want to see. So once they start engaging with wedding related content, that's what they're going to see. So you have a really good chance of being put in front of them.
Yeah, you almost want to use it the same way that we use blogs with SEO. So, like here in Colorado, we have a really beautiful venue called the Broadmoor. So, like, let's just say you want to work at the Broadmoor more often. What you could do on threads is you could do like top 5 tips if you're getting married at the Broadmoor this fall. And it could be just 5 tips and that's it. So, if a
Mhm.
couple, they just they got engaged in front of the lake this afternoon and they love it so much and they know that they're going to like, not work. They know that they're going to have their wedding at the Broadmoor. They're going to go on threads. They're going to like do their little shared engagement announcement. And then they're going to start Googling and they're going to start going on threads looking for Broadmoor. That's what they're going to look for because that's a specific venue in your area. So what is it for you guys? Like, where do you live? And like, what's the specific venues or specific like spaces that you want to shoot in? It's the same, even if you're like an elopement photographer. Maybe you're an elopement photographer in Savannah. So top 5 tips if you're getting married, if you're eloping in Savannah this fall. Like it's as simple as that. And like
Mhm.
I think we try to overcomplicate marketing so much more than it should be.
Mm. We do.
I love that. So I think one of the things I want to talk about is because like right now, like we're on a podcast. Obviously you and I both have podcasts. Like we're very much like using threads in a way where it's like business to business.
Mhm.
So if somebody doesn't have a podcast, but maybe they do want to like work with other businesses, or maybe they do want to market to couples, like what are some ways that somebody could use Threads if they don't have like an educational thing to point towards or a podcast to point towards?
Definitely. Yeah. I would say one of the ways would be to connect with other wedding professionals. So whether that's like local in your area, or if you just want to like, build connections with people across the country. Maybe you do destination weddings. And so you need like a great referral source of pros across the country or internationally. It's a great way to just start building those connections and relationships. And yeah, so I mean, that can look like a million different things, but you can, like, you will start to see other people engaging on content, and you'll see something that, like, that you like or that you relate with. And so you'll go, oh, this, who is this person? You'll go to their page and then you'll be like, oh, they're not too far from me. Or yeah, I mean, there's a million different ways that we can go about that, but it's just such a great place to start to really dive into those relationships a little bit deeper. So that's one of the reasons that I love it personally. I mentioned this before, but it's also a great way to just kind of show your expertise. And so if you are wanting to use it to market towards couples, you can definitely like share about your business and how long you've been in business and what you do and how you work with couples to solve their problems, and just sharing that like valuable content and advice that it's going to make their wedding planning journey easier, I think is a great way to start to use Threads and start to market to those couples.
Yeah, I think one of the things I kind of want to like ask you about, because you are a wedding planner, is like I still think that there's a lot of people out there who are like cold emailing planners and cold
Mm.
DMing planners and being like,
Mhm.
"Hey, I want to work with you." Like, so
Mhm.
what would you say like as far as Threads go? Like what would be some good ways to connect with people like that it's not going to give you the ick?
Mhm.
If like let's just say where it's a photographer who's kind of like local to your area but they're not going to like your networking event,
Mhm.
like how might somebody like connect with you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think just like engaging and interacting on posts that I'm sharing, like if they see something and yeah, if they have any kind of reaction to it, like just leaving a comment and just being like, oh, yeah, and sharing their own thoughts. They don't have to agree with me. Like, even if they don't agree with me, they can throw in their own questions. They can just share their own thoughts on the topic. So I think just starting to engage, I would say the next level to that would be like taking it off of Threads and like going to my profile and, finding me on Instagram, following me on Instagram. I definitely have people who have found me on Threads and then will come over, and because, with Threads, like there is no DMing. So that's one of the things that differentiates it, is like there's no private messaging. It's all just public essentially. But if you wanted to like take things to that next level, you can go to their Instagram profile and then DM them that way. And so that's always fun to get a message from somebody and be like, hey, I found you on Threads and I liked what you were sharing. Or, usually it'll reference like a specific post, but I think that's a great way to go about it. I don't have any problem with that. It's my only issue is when I'm getting those cold DMs or emails, is when they're explicitly saying like, I want to be on your preferred vendors list. How can I do that? That's the only kind that really bothers me. If somebody is just reaching out to connect with me, like I'm all for that. And I would never want somebody to not think they could do that. But yeah, it's really just when they're asking, like outright asking for that. And I feel like most people know these days that like a planner is not going to refer you unless they have like actual experience with you. Like that would be a disservice to my clients if I recommended somebody that I never worked with. And I feel like that should go without saying, but I do, like you said, I do still get those cold emails where people are like, I would love to be on your list. So I think we just, yeah, need to educate them, but
Yeah, this is your education right now. Don't do
yeah.
it. Don't do it. I think like, I would love to say like we've evolved past that like cold DMs don't exist anymore or cold emails don't
Mhm.
exist anymore. But like I even still like have either clients will like be like, hey, should I send this email? And I'd be like, do you know the person? Then they're like, no. And I'm like, then no. No, you are not allowed to send that email unless you want to burn that bridge. So I think it's like really important to recognize like the intention behind the connection. So
Mhm.
like, like if you're like, okay, Becky's my dream planner. Like I want to have a wedding with her next year. I think it'd be so fun. I know my style fits her client's style. I know my process fits the way that she likes to run weddings. Okay, how can I connect with her? Okay, well, she's on Threads and she like just posted a Dear Wedding Pro. I can comment on her Dear Wedding Pro series and be like, oh my God, I loved this. I have a personal story or personal connection and share that. We've just opened up a conversation. She might respond back to that. And then from there, after we've talked for a little bit, it might like go into like, hey, do you want to have a coffee date? or hey,
Mhm.
like what's the next networking event that you might be at that we might get to say hi in person. It doesn't have to be this like weird formal like, oh, we have to move the relationship to the next stage like thing. It can be so organic and such a like win for both parties. And I think it's important to like check the energy, check the intention.
Yeah, 100%.
I love that. Well, Becky, this has been incredible. I got so many thoughts out of this. Like, I'm just like, oh, I might get on threads again. So, thank you for sharing your wisdom around this. I would
Of
love if you
course.
could share with the audience. Number one, how can they find you? Number two, what are you up to right now that they can, like, either purchase from you or they can, like, be like mentored by you? And then number three, I really want to like make sure that people know that you have a podcast and like can find your podcast.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate it. So, okay, the best place to find me, obviously on Threads. I'm Event Crush on Threads, and then, of course, Instagram. So it's slightly confusing because I have two Instagram accounts, and you are more than welcome to follow either one. My planning business account is Event Crush, but then I do have another one that is specifically for my podcast and for educational content for wedding pros, and that one is eventcrush.ed. So Event Crushed. So either one of those is great. And then as far as what else is going on, yeah, I mean, if there's any planners listening, I do have my one-on-one planner mentorship that is open, and so you can get all the details for that on my main website, which is eventcrush.com. There's a section called For Wedding Pros, and that's where you can learn about my mentorship. You can see all of my like favorite tools and resources for wedding pros, and you can also find the links to the podcast and everything on there. And yeah, my podcast is just the Event Crushed podcast, and coming up on a year, which is super exciting. But we put out weekly episodes for wedding pros on all kinds of topics, lots of marketing, lots of social media, lots of networking, work-life balance, all of those fun topics that we love to talk about.
I love that. So before we go, there was one thing I wanted to plug that you didn't mention.
Mm,
You have a data spreadsheet
mm,
for lead tracking. I want you to
yes.
talk about that just really quick
Okay.
because my little data heart is so happy that you have that. And I want my
Yes.
audience to know about it.
Well, thank you. No, I appreciate it. Yeah, this was my first like digital product that I put out, and I hope to do many more, but this was our kind of initial one. But yes, it's called the Ultimate Lead and Sales Tracker. And so it is a way for wedding pros specifically to track all of their leads. It's a Google Sheet template. So the main page of it is where you put in all of your data. So the lead's name, their wedding date, when they inquired with you, when you responded to them, where they're getting married, where the referral came from. That's like the biggest thing for me. Because for me as a planner, I just really wanted to know where all of my leads were coming from and to see like which ones were the most fruitful and where I should be putting more of my energy in marketing. Because if you don't know where your leads are coming from, you don't really know what you should be improving or taking away. And so yes, having that data is so important. And then it has a whole visual dashboard component to it. So there are like beautiful charts and graphs that will show you the like percentage of where all your leads are coming from and the different levels of service that are booking, like what's your most popular service. And there, it's just, yeah, it's so nice. I'm obsessed with the visual dashboard because I'm a visual person, and so being able to just see it all in one place is amazing. And it's broken down by quarter, and so there's each quarter broken out, and then there's the whole year view as well. So yeah, it's super nifty if I do say so myself.
I love that. I have a super like Frankenstein data spreadsheet that like from my wedding days
Mm.
that I like was using. So like I really wish this had been available back in like 2018, 2019 because I would have been all over it. So that stuff will be in the show notes for you guys so that you can go connect with Becky and you can go find any of the stuff that we talked about. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing all of your wisdom. Please, 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 like everyone, like go find us on Threads, like go comment on her Dear Wedding Pro series. Becky, is there anything you want to say or anything you want to wrap up before we go?
I don't think so. I'm just really grateful that you had me on. It's always so fun chatting with you. And I'm very thankful that Threads brought us together. So I'll just leave it with
Me
that.
too. I love that. That makes my heart happy. All
Yeah.
right, guys, we will see you on the next episode. Becky, thank you so much for everything. I'll see you soon.
All right. Thank you.